likened you to Neville Chamberlain.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, because that's the thing, you see. I don't get upset talking to Christians. I mean, I don't get upset talking to creationists. I've always gotten on very well with them and never had any trouble about sitting down and having a meal with them and that sort of thing. And when I have a drink and they don't, I always mention the marriage at Cana where Jesus turned the water into wine, and that I say I'm more Christian than you are. So I don't have any trouble like that. But more than that, I do feel that at some level it ought to be possible not to reconcile Christianity and Darwinism, because personally I don't want to, because I'm not a Christian. So I don't want Darwinism to show that Christianity is true, because I don't think Christianity is true. But I do want to, I think what I've tried to do a lot is almost very much like Steve Gould did, and to try to show that Darwinism, or rather science and religion, often are addressing different sorts of issues. And so instead of, as it were, either going like that or going like that together, they're like that. In other words, it's not that they contradict, but that they're different dimensions. I mean, for instance, it's a category mistake to say that science and religion are doing the same sort of thing. It doesn't work. And I think that religion is often, mainly always, trying to speak to issues that science doesn't even tackle. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I think that physics tries to show you where we came from, and it could take us back to the Big Bang. I look upon that as scientific. And if a physicist says, well, of course, we don't think the Big Bang started it all. There was probably maybe something before that, or at least our theories are that, we can go back even. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I have no trouble. But what Heidegger called the fundamental question, why is there something rather than nothing? Why is there anything that exists rather? I'm not sure that physics, I don't think it sets out to answer that question. What physics does is says, here we are, it's like the cookbook recipe. First take your hair and then get on with it. And I think that that's what physics does. Physics says, okay, here's a world. Let's explore it, explain it, see if we can say things about it. But why is there a world, at all? I think that's an ontological question that as I say, I don't think physics tries to do. Another thing I think is value. I think modern science is in itself value free. In other words, what I mean by that is you don't ask questions like, what is the value of the moon? The moon is. The moon might have good effects, it might have bad effects, but that's not why the moon exists. The moon is. And I would want to say that values are things that you don't get out of science. Now, you can read them in. And of course, if somebody does something, there may be values to it. I mean, for instance, if I build a guillotine, well, obviously, I'm not just building a guillotine. I'm building a guillotine, presumably with a purpose to chop people's heads off. And of course, I've made a value judgment. Let's say that capital punishment is a good thing, whereas other people might make a value judgment that capital punishment is a bad thing. In fact, in Florida, I would say a guillotine is a bad thing, but I expect most white people in Florida think it's a very good thing. Their big regret is that executions aren't public. But I don't think I don't think the guillotine, the value of it, is a matter of science. The science is, how does it work? Why would you use, let's say, a metal knife coming down rather than, something made of, I don't know, porous or something, because it wouldn't work. So, as I say, I think those are scientific questions, but I don't see that science deals with values in that sort of sense. And so again, I think it's perfectly legitimate for a religious person to try to answer those. Now, I don't say that only religion could answer those, because I'm not religious, but I think that these are questions one can try to answer. I'm not sure I can answer why is there something rather than nothing. Yeah, it's a mystery to me. But as I say, so I think that these are some of the sorts of issues. I think that's, I mean, Steve Gould talked about magisteria, but the trouble was Gould thought that religion was only about values. And I don't think that's true. I think religion can talk about actual things. You know, why are there people? What is the nature of the mind? You know, being made in the image of God, and that. So I think that those are claims about reality. I just don't think they're scientific claims. So those are the sorts of things that I've been working on as a philosopher. So I've got this sort of dual sort of thing. On the one hand, I'm an academic. Well, I'm a lot of things. On the one hand, I'm a teacher. Don't forget, I basically get paid to teach students. I mean, that's that's for 50 odd years. That's been my job, is teaching, and I not only look upon it as something I do. As I look back, I see how incredibly important it has been to me as a human being to have been a teacher. So, I mean, that's the first. But obviously, I'm an academic. I write things, I discuss things, and then as much, I also feel very strongly, and perhaps this is my Quaker background, is that I feel that one's got an obligation to engage with the world at large. Now, there are different ways you can do this. One of the ways you can do it is by writing about stuff that you think are important. I mean, I write a lot about the difference between science and pseudoscience. I think, for instance, we see during this pandemic, the number of people who are making pseudoscientific claims about the virus, are out of this world. I mean, ludicrous. I mean, starting with the president, the sorts of things he says. I mean, he has no interest in the science, but any kind of fake view. And of course, then you get all the people who are against vaccination. Vaccination causes autism. Well, that's just not true. But so I've written a lot about those. So I've always felt that an important part of what I do is public engagement. And I mean, dare I say, even being prepared, more than prepared, very happy to have been invited by you to come and talk to you for an hour, is, I feel, it's not the only thing I do. It's not the most important thing I do. But I would say it's a vital part of what I do. Now, as I say, I think different strokes for different folks. I mean, I've had colleagues who've basically been teachers and only teachers, and I'm not going to criticize somebody as long as they do their job seriously.